Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make a quick video on something that I saw being reported like maybe less than a week ago. And I didn't really see it making the rounds. I mean, it did a little bit, but it went away very quickly. And I think that this is very, very important. It is about the new FBI headquarters. So I heard about this in a different context. It was, I think, maybe a month or two ago. They were talking about the FBI spending money on it. It was kind of tracking what the FBI spends their money on. And I knew that they were purchasing a bigger headquarters and that they were in negotiations on the pricing and stuff like that. I didn't know the size of it, though. I didn't realize how big it was going to be. So another story came out that just kind of lets you know the magnitude of what we're dealing with here. And I find it deeply, deeply disturbing. If you are a longtime listener of the channel, you know that I've been covering FBI corruption for a very long time. You would know that I'm working on a documentary about the FBI's corruption in the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer Fednapping case. So obviously, this does not seem like a good idea to me. I'm sure you all can agree. All right, let's go ahead and get into the story. The first thing I want to bring up is this thread by J. Michael Waller. He says, I just listened to Steve Baker's entire podcast with FBI whistleblower at Real Steve Friend. We've had Steve Friend on the channel. I did a live stream with him and my friend Good Logic. That is on the live stream section of my channel. I actually try to put a link to that in the video description for this video, so you can find that easily and go back and reference it, because Steve is a great guy, good whistleblower. And I encourage you all to support him. He says, a sincere, enlightening look at the inner workings of the FBI at the field level and how weaponization of the bureaucracy tries to crush agents for following their conscience. Steve had tweeted this out. Here's my interview with FBI whistleblower Steve Friend. We cover the decision to risk his FBI career by becoming a whistleblower, the current politics of the FBI, as well as my own J6 related experience with the FBI, and much more. He says, thread of paraphrasings and quotations from suspended FBI Special Agent Steve Friend in the podcast. FBI headquarters shut down investigations into CP, CSC, and HT to pursue misdemeanor cases against J6 trespassers. Yes. Number two, FBI HQ opened up hundreds of J6 DT cases in field offices across the country, in part to inflate its DT statistics and to check the boxes so that SES level agents could get more promotions in pay. And guys, we know that's what these men are about. Not all of them. Obviously, Kyle Seraphin, Steve Friend, and several other FBI whistleblowers who have come forward in recent years are honorable, good men. So I presume there are some other guys like that still currently within the FBI. But I think for the most part, you have agents like Special Agent Jason Chambers, who was the lead handling agent in the Michigan plot case. And Jason Chambers was operating his own private intelligence firm, Exa Intel, using taxpayer dollars, right? He was reallocating FBI resources to try to get his own private company, Exa Intel, off the ground. He was working with a girl named Shelly, who he was actually paying as a confidential human source, a CHS. That's what the FBI, that's how they refer to FBI informants, is CHS is the technical term for that. So she was working for him. He was paying her with FBI money, but then in emails to his friends, he's saying, yeah, she's working with me daily to get Exa Intel off the ground. So Exa Intel hadn't made a profit yet at that point, so he was actually using FBI funds to pay an employee of his private company That's our taxpayer dollars. And like, that's what these guys care about. You know, Jason Chambers was in text messages to other agents saying, hey guys, you know, I need a big case. I'm going to be retiring soon. And I need a big case to kind of segue my career into the private sector. Mr. Chambers had previously worked on the Boston Marathon case, which I think deserves more scrutiny after what you'll see came out, you know, what we've uncovered in the Michigan case as far as FBI absolute corruption, entrapment, framing. I think that does indeed deserve a second look. I am of the opinion at this point that pretty much any case Jason Chambers has worked on deserves scrutiny. All the other FBI agents involved in the Michigan plot, Richard Trask, Heinrich Impola, we need to re-examine prior cases. Impola is already accused of perjury in a prior case. So why isn't he being investigated? Jason Chambers actually broke the law, and what he did was highly unethical with his private business. And that private business was seeking to profit off of the Michigan case. It was tweeting out that it had special foreknowledge, and it was saying, follow me. And his private company was seeking multi-million-dollar contracts with the federal government to advise them on cases of DT. So if there was a really big plot that got foiled, he could use that to sell his own product back to the government as a private contractor after he retires to make millions of dollars. That's the kind of people these are. So yes, they are SES level agents. They care about promotions and pay. They care about getting pats on the back. They give each other little awards every year. Meanwhile, they are taking away resources to go into HT, which is a epidemic at this point. It is $1 billion industry. It's modern day slavery. It is slavery. So that's what they're doing. So they can score political points, so they can get hired by big law firms, you know, big Democrat-run law firms in DC. They're trying to appeal to those elites so that those people employ them when they leave the FBI. They want to be taken care of. They're like, yeah, we put our time in, now go hire us at a think tank and pay us, you know, tons of money so we can retire comfortably. That's how the game is played, and they know that. The people at the senior levels of the FBI, not necessarily every single line agent, but I'm of the opinion that there is really like no excuse at this point. Even if you are somebody inside the FBI, if you're listening to this and you are sort of like a lower level employee at the field office level, I would suggest that you are participating in something that is deeply, deeply corrupted, evil, wicked. It is, in my opinion, at this point, beyond fixing. It needs to be completely abolished. And then maybe you could start over from scratch. But I don't actually believe that we need this kind of federal law enforcement. We already have DHS. We actually have 17 different intelligence agencies in this country. Okay, that's a massive number. We have state, local law enforcement as well. Why do we need something like the FBI? Just to throw that out there. I know that this was a big segue, kind of got off topic, so let's get back to this. Steve Friend said heads of FBI field offices get bonuses for essentially having met certain standards that they set for themselves the year prior. How many DT cases are we going to have open? There is a demand for that, are vastly exceeding the supply. So they want to be able to show, hey, look, you know, there's a big uptick in DT activity. Oh, dangerous far right-wing extremists. You'll never hear anything about far left extremists. I don't know if I've ever heard that come out of the mouths of any of these FBI agents that take a knee for BLM, which was ridiculous. Steve Friend, what's going on with J6 is atypical. I've arrested over 150 violent criminals in my career in the FBI. Not once did I have to use a tactical team or a team of 30 agents with full body armor. Oh yeah, this is what Michael Sherwin, U.S. Attorney Michael Sherwin said when he did a March 2021 interview on CNN. I believe it was 60 Minutes, about the J6 investigations, because at the time, I believe he was the one overseeing that. And he said that right after J6, there was sort of this kind of all hands on deck meeting of like, hey, we are going to terrify these people so that this doesn't happen again. He literally called it a shock and awe campaign, shock and awe. So yes, they're doing the same types of military style campaigns that they did in the Middle East global war on terror. They're now doing that to American citizens in what they've referred to as a domestic war on terror. And he used that phrase, shock and awe campaign, because he wanted to make sure that nobody that showed up at J6 showed up to protest Joe Biden's inauguration. If y'all remember, they put up fencing. They made this big to-do about how, oh, there's all these dangerous people that might show up to try to overthrow the I mean, come on. Yeah, grandmas, boomer grandmas carrying their little like flag and wearing their hats, or their MAGA hats, are gonna like overthrow the federal government. Like, it's so ludicrous on its face, and they know that. They're pathetic and ridiculous. After Steve Friend raised concerns with his FBI supervisors about the process being the punishment in politicized cases, the supervisor agreed, then said Steve Friend should think about his career and urged him to get counseling. Friend was then suspended without pay indefinitely. Number 6, the FBI supervisor of the JTTF, that's the Joint Terrorism Task Force in Jacksonville, voiced concerns about the legitimacy of the J6 investigations, but then he got promoted and decided to keep his opinions to himself and participate in the scam. Number 7, the FBI skirts whistleblower protection laws by invoking national security to turn the screws on its own agents. It suspends their security clearances, rendering them unable to work in the FBI, then suspends them without pay because they are not working. Steve Friend says it's retaliation. Number 8, because indefinitely suspended FBI personnel are still considered FBI employees, they cannot get outside work. So you're suspended without pay, but you also can't get another job. The FBI Office of Integrity Compliance must approve requests to do outside work. In these cases, it denies the requests in order to deny them income. This is one way the FBI leadership prevents more agents from coming forward. More than 24 FBI special agents have already done so, however, most anonymously. The FBI then leaks derogatory personal information from whistleblowers' confidential personnel files to friendly reporters in order to discredit the critics. This is a crime, but FBI officials do it anyway with impunity. No one will investigate the leaks. Number 11, if the House panel on weaponization of the government prioritizes what's going on with the whistleblowers receiving adverse action for making protected disclosures, you will see them coming out in droves. And I hope that that's true. To me, it sounds a little bit optimistic, but I like to have hope. You know, I could be wrong. So here we have another, just to throw in more about the FBI. FBI records show the FBI top leaders were sent concerning information pointing to the potential for violence days before J6, such as the fact that, quote, DT suspects were coming to DC for the Stop the Steal rally. So this is FBI production to the House Select Committee on J6. They're calling it a attack. I would call it a guided tour of the Capitol that got a little bit rowdy for just a few hours. But so that's interesting, right? Director Wray's special executive assistant and the FBI's number 2 were emailed on J3 that the PBEs are coming for violence. They will cause mass unrest, destruction, and potentially harm many people in the streets of DC on J6. I think that that's kind of silly. But it's still something to keep in mind, though, that like they wanted it to happen. What happened on January 6th, because it gave the FBI this big push to they can get a bigger budget. Oh, look, we've got to go after all these bad guys. They call this the biggest investigation in the history of the FBI, meaning they've put more resources into going after meemaws in MAGA hats than they have going after child sexual predators, you know, or like the mafia back in the day, you know, the one that J. Edgar Hoover claimed didn't exist. Okay, so this is what I really wanted to get to. I just wanted to get some groundwork laid, you know, set the tone for then explaining why this is so bad. Planned new FBI headquarters is twice the size of the Pentagon. That's insane. The GOP House can stop the project and rein in a runaway bureau. Well, they better. The federal government is proceeding with plans to build a new FBI headquarters complex 2 times the size of the Pentagon. Riveted into the colossal new project are woke regulations to ensure that the FBI center will comply with diversity, equity, LGBTQ+, and climate change political goals, which have literally nothing to do with federal law enforcement. The plan, unveiled last September, has received very little attention. For years, the FBI has sought to vacate its present headquarters, a brutalist concrete bunker on stilts and occupying 2 city blocks between the White House and the Capitol. Plans for the new FBI headquarters specify that it will be built on one of 3 sites in suburban Virginia and Maryland. Those sites are large parcels of 58, 61, and 80 acres. That means, at minimum, the new FBI headquarters complex would be twice the size of the Pentagon building. Covering about 29 acres plus a 5-acre courtyard, the Pentagon, until recently, was the largest office building on Earth. And we want the FBI to balloon to 2 times the size of that? I think not. The Kremlin in Moscow, a walled fortress containing the administrative offices of the Russian central government, the official presidential residence, massive auditoriums, an arsenal, a museum, 4 palaces, 3 cathedrals, and several churches, is just over 66 acres in area. The General Services Administration, which administers federal properties, has selected the 3 sites. The 58-acre property in Springfield, Virginia, GSA says, quote, is federally owned land under the jurisdiction, custody, and control of the GSA. The government would have to buy or lease either of the 2 properties available in Maryland. The state of Maryland and Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority own the 61-acre site in Greenbelt. The 80-acre parcel is the former Landover Mall, which is privately owned. So I thought that was kind of disturbing. GSA set out 5 criteria for choosing the property: FBI mission requirement, transportation access for FBI personnel, site development flexibility, which includes the suitability of the actual property and the earliest time construction could begin, promoting sustainable sitting and advancing equity and cost. Oh, okay. The equity criteria to comply with diversity and climate change executive order signed by Joe Biden is weighted as 50% more important than the actual cost of the project itself. Because, as you know, diversity is our strength, or whatever the new mantra is of our sacred democracy. You know, yeah. The site design and structure of the new FBI headquarters must, quote, advance racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. The FBI complex must be a sustainable location to strengthen the vitality and livability of the communities in the area. This is all like nonsense talk. It's literally like nonsense. That it means nothing. It just sounds pretty, I suppose, to these people. The EO defines equity as the consistent and systematic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who belong to underserved communities that have been denied such treatment, such as BIPOC and the gay mafia. I guess. And like, they're not underserved communities. I would say that they're kind of overserved at this point. You know, certainly hyper-fixated on. This is one of the main factors driving the location of the new double Pentagon-sized FBI headquarters. This is going to be like the new woke KGB secret police force, the new Cheka. That's what this is. This is the new Stasi. And it's not crazy to say that. Like, they continue to become more and more militant and more weaponized against the American people. They are focused, I would say, almost 100% on what they call the insider threat, which is just the FBI creating hoaxes to claim that there is this insider threat and that they're the only ones that can handle it. So we need to give them like more money and power and give away more of our rights to them. Okay, so let's see. That would require a political control structure to implement the way that they have all of this set up with these new executive orders. Section 401 of the EO addresses that, calling for training and indoctrination of all federal personnel, including FBI agents, quote, to effectively apply sustainability, climate adaptation, and environmental stewardship across disciplines and functions. Section 402 says incorporating environmental justice shows the politicization objective. The new FBI headquarters shall address actions taken to advance environmental justice under that section. Section 403 takes it further, turning federal employees, in this case, FBI special agents and other personnel, into political activists, both on and off the job. It would pair the FBI with, quote, public, private, and nonprofit sectors like NGOs and labor unions and worker organizations to promote environmental justice. All of this activity under Section 501 of the EO would be overseen by a political commissar titled Federal Chief Sustainability Officer, who is appointed by the president. With the FBI leadership refusing to answer questions from Congress about internal politicization, illegal targeting of conservatives, and whether or not any agents or assets committed criminal acts of violence at the Capitol in January, sentiment is building to pressure the FBI to come clean. All lawmakers who voted for the fiscal year 2023 omnibus spending bill voted to fund the start of the new headquarters, of course, and there were many Republicans who did that because they are dumb. Meanwhile, the FBI says it needs to keep a substantial space in downtown DC to stay close to the DOJ that is presently across the street. The House can exercise power of the purse to stop this semi-stealth FBI expansion and force the Bureau to cooperate fully with Congress. They can do this by allowing no funds to purchase, lease, or develop land not presently owned by the federal government. That would eliminate 2 of the proposed sites in Maryland. Second, allow no funds to design, develop, or construct federal property bound to diversity, equity, and inclusion agendas, or any programs that promote or enforce cultural Marxism with tax dollars. I would say you don't approve any money for the FBI, and you investigate them for the things that we know they've already done. You investigate them for the Whitmer hoax, you investigate them for J6, and I think that you will find that there are many programs inside the FBI that have millions of dollars being pumped into them that serve no one and accomplish nothing except for the own personal self-advancement and self-enrichment of those senior executives within the FBI. And so I think that at this point, you need to defund and then abolish the FBI because I do not see how something so broken can be fixed. So anyways, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do me a favor, please like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the little bell notification thing so you get a notification every time I put out a video, because I swear they're hiding the channel. You know, people aren't getting the notifications, so make sure you've done that. And comment, let me know what you guys think about this. Should we have the FBI becoming, twice the size of the Pentagon? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?